Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 103rd episode of the longest tenured Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast in the world. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. Before we start, please let me remind you to like the video on the DNVR Sports YouTube channel and or subscribe to the DNVR Nuggets podcast channel wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support the show even more directly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Miroslav. CUK. Patreon supporters can only appear on one of these game shows. So if you'd like to present your trivia knowledge or wax poetic with me and my other guests on the show, just go ahead and subscribe. It is a shortcut that never fails. My name is Miroslav and the Olympic basketball tournament is over. Congrats to the new Olympic champions, Team USA. They weren't as inevitable as most people expected, but they still won all 6 games in the tournament. I'll do a quick rundown of what we've seen in the elimination round. First, in the quarterfinal, Serbia met Australia. Nikola and his buddies came into this game extremely lethargic, allowing Australia to have a 14-point lead when Nikola was taking his first breather, and that is normally a recipe for a disaster. The second unit came in and the whole grew to 24 points. It looked like one of those games versus Italy in 2021 or 2022, where a clearly better team looked like they didn't know what they were doing. It was a bad defensive plan or possibly bad execution versus Patty Mills and Josh Giddey that could have cost them an early exit from the tournament. Those guys didn't miss anything, and Australia was at 70% field goal percentage shooting, 4 minutes into the second quarter. It turned out that the best possible time to be down 24 was early in the second round because Serbia, in the second quarter, because Serbia had enough time to come back. They finally upped their defensive intensity. Josh and Patty finally started missing some shots, and even Vasa Micic made a last-second desperation 3, so it looked like Serbia was winning in the last minutes. But then Vasa missed one clutch free throw, and Patty hit the last-second shot to tie the game and send it to overtime. Even though he was visibly tired, Nikola Jokic took over in overtime and broke the game open with 5 or 6 winning plays in a row and took his team to the medal round. That same day, the big favorite, Canada, played versus France, a team that looked pretty bad until that game. French coach Vincent Collet made a big adjustment for this game by not starting Gobert next to Wemby, and Rudy ended up playing just 4 minutes in this game. Guys that made much more sense to play next to him, Yabusele and Lesort, played great, and Cordinier shot the leather off the ball. Add to that Fournier, and please don't Google Fournier, off the bench, and it was a winning formula. On the other side, Canada only had an individual effort from SGA with a heavy emphasis on the word individual. Turned out not all superstars make their teammates better. Jamal Murray was bad off the bench, even with the increased minutes. Just 7 points in 24 minutes on 23% from the field and 3 turnovers was probably his worst game of the tournament. Canada out. 2 days later, on Thursday, Serbia met Team USA. It was a game I had been waiting for since our last meeting in the 2019 World Cup when Serbia won the 5th place game. Serbia started strong, got an immediate single-digit lead, and started building on it. It was plus 11 for Serbia at the half, mainly because Steph Curry scored 20 points in the first half and didn't let Team USA let go of the rope. Serbia was finally hitting its three-pointers, specifically Avramovic, Dobric, and Bogdanovic. In the second half, Serbia started well again, building a 15-point lead, but the Team US started chipping away points and the lead started slowly devolving. Serbia shot stopped falling. They missed 10 out of last 11 three-point attempts, I believe, and Team US continued their hot shooting. Serbia ran out of gas and committed a few turnovers late, and LeBron and company took the win from the jaws of the defeat. Steph scored 36, including 9 threes. LeBron had a triple-double, and KD chipped in with a late dagger. Jokic was amazing throughout the game, but was reffed like it was a game against the Lakers. So he got into the foul trouble and only had 4 free throws. Bogdanovic was amazing, and all the role players contributed to this historic game that almost ended up in an upset. In the other semifinal, France defeated Germany, carried by a newfound lack of Rudy Gobert from their rotation. Yesterday, in a bronze medal game, Serbia met Germany. There was a bit of fear before the game. First, because Germany is a really freaking good team, and secondly, because of all the energy spent against Team USA. But Serbian team is special, led by extreme competitors in Jokic, Bogdanovic, and defensive player of the tournament Avramovic. The team played with high energy from the jump and led from wire to wire. Nikola asserted himself early, while Daniel Lynch was trying to guard him one-on-one. And since that didn't work, the Germans went to a double team, which led to Nikola's first career Olympic triple-double. 6 players ended up with double digits for another impressive team win. In the end, former Yugoslavia has had 9 gold medals from different tournaments. Serbia won another 5 golds, but none of those tournaments had my team playing at this level. Yes, Nikola Jokic is by far the best Serbian player of all time, but Bogdan Bogdanovic proved to be a surefire top 5 Serbian player of all time, and that is not something I expected to take away before the tournament started. Having a lead against 9 future Hall of Famers for 37 and some change minutes, and then getting a confident win against the world champions Germany, is the most impressive FIBA tournament in Serbian history, and that it includes former Yugoslavia as well. I'm really happy. Okay, that is enough of an intro. Let's meet my guests for today. First, our last week's champion. He is a big shot lawyer in Chicago, Illinois, a de facto Nikola Jokic defender in public space, and the author of Nuggets championship song you all had the chance of hearing on this very show. It is one of the nicest people I've have pleasure of talking to, Dan Lynch. Welcome back to the show, Dan.
Always a pleasure to be your guest, Miro.
So you've won last week's show, in my opinion, by carefully watching the show from the previous week. You took it seriously.
That's true.
It yielded a win for you. I really like that word, yielded.
I had an idea of what was coming, Miro.
Yeah. So did you do something special preparing for today's show?
No. I'm counting on the age of the participants to give me a leg up.
Yeah, and also the fact that most of my references to pop culture are pretty old. So
exactly.
yeah, you're in a pretty good spot right there. Okay, next up, a Serbian Corner debutant, a really nice person who has been a good luck charm of the Nuggets Twitter for years, a frequent guest and almost a host at the DNVR bar and at the Ball Arena. It's Tatiana. Welcome to the show, Tatiana.
Oh my gosh, hi. That's so nice.
Yeah, well, you were one of my hosts when I was in Denver, and I will always remember every kind person that made my trip more enjoyable.
Of course, we loved having you, and thank you for having me on this.
So, did you have a chance to watch the previous 2 shows? And did you do some prep work to challenge a champion like Dan?
Okay, I watched the last show, and I kept hearing that Jeremy actually was really, really good. Mm-hmm. And as the show went on, I did see Jeremy kill it. And Dan just absolutely blew it out of the water with his name references. So I am very nervous to go against Dan, but it's going to be so fun.
Good thing about it, it's only one of the 3 games, so there's always a chance to not let Dan win.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Well, that I did well on that. What ended up winning for me was that I could tell the difference between Trey Lyles and Paul Millsap.
I saw that. Yes, you did very well.
Okay, last but not least, she was the last season's Rookie of the Year on the Nuggets Twitter, and this season she is the brightest new star of a Nuggets podcast. From the What's in the Game podcast, a knowledge sponge and multitasker, it's Grace Jean. Welcome back to the show, Grace.
Thanks for having me, Miroslav. I'm just trying to do my best to avoid the sophomore slump.
I remember that multitasker part because I think it's really important for your personality. This is how you actually get to do several things at the same time, and like save yourself from not being a long tenured Nuggets fan. Like I know people that have been Nuggets fans for decades that will not know the details that you catched up only in a year and a half. So kudos to you for that. Tell me, I'm not even going to ask you if you're prepared for this show or not, since everything you do regarding the Nuggets coverage is basically the prep work for today's show. Do you agree?
I hope so.
Okay, enough pleasantries. Let's cut to the chase. The Olympic tournament ended, and I wanted just to pick your brains a bit on several subjects. First, let's start with the big takeaway from the tournament as a whole. Do you want to start, Grace? Like, what is the main thing you take away from the tournament as a whole?
For speaking just about the basketball portion?
Yeah, just basketball part. Yeah.
Honestly, I felt like it was too short.
I agree.
One of the things that really stood out to me was how quickly the group stage went by. You know, they only play each team in their group once, and the groups themselves are pretty small. So, you know, just with those 3 games, the knockout rounds came around. I'm like, oh, we're already here. And obviously it's to fit like within the, length that the Olympics is in, but it kind of made me, I guess, appreciate the grueling nature of the playoffs a little bit more, because it just gives us as fans a lot more to digest and analyze, like trying to come up with, big takeaways from single game settings and then not having any outside references for particular matchups was not what I was used to.
I really like that takeaway, because I'm gonna put my tin foil hat on and say that before this tournament, for a long time there was 12 teams in the tournament, but it used to be 2 groups of 6 teams, so every team would play 5 games, and then there was no draw, this stupid draw that happened after the group stage. It was number 1 seed against number 4 seed, number 2 seed against number 3 seed. So basically, if you were in the same group with Team US, your job was to be number 2 seed, and then you're safe from the States. Or if you're in the other group, you just need to be number 1 seed and you're not meeting the States. Until the final, Serbia did whatever they could. They were the best second place team, but it wasn't enough because of the draw that, coincidentally happened in both men's and women's competition, and both draws took France all the way to the other side of the draw. I don't know if it could be just a coincidence. Tatiana, what was your big takeaway from the basketball tournament?
I thought it was so fun. All the matchups were literally what I envisioned for them to be. Especially the US Serbia one, but then also the bronze one and the gold one yesterday. They were just like high level basketball. It was so competitive. I just think it was really fun. And of course, we love seeing Jokic and how dominant he is even in the Olympics. And I was a little bit worried about his wrist, but it looks like it had no anything to do with that, with his game. And then of course supporting Jamal as well and seeing him for Team Canada. I just think it was just so fun, and I feel like it was too short, like Grace said. So now we're back to forming up for a regular NBA season. So I just think it was such a fun thing that we got to witness.
Dan, what was your big takeaway?
I share the too short. I don't think it was way too short, but it was short. It went by fast. So yeah, I would have enjoyed for sure a couple more games. But I would say my big takeaway is the NBA's got to start looking at FIBA rules. That's the first thing. I mean, just start with the unsuccessful nature of foul baiting by American players. I mean, you didn't see too much foul baiting by any of the foreign players. I mean, look, some of that always goes with basketball, but not to the extent the NBA players have mastered. So that was my single most favorite thing about the tournament.
If I would have to nitpick something I didn't like about refereeing at the tournament, was the fact that there were so many offensive fouls called in the backcourt. And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, if you're not going to give Joker 3 free throws for launching a shot from his backcourt, just don't call offensive fouls from backcourt as well. Grace, what's the one rule from the FIBA game you would like to implement in the NBA?
Honestly, something that Will and I discussed on the show pretty extensively is what it would look like if we didn't necessarily get rid of the defensive 3-second rule, but we just extended it out to like 4 seconds, for example, so that, guys aren't just kind of tap dancing in and out of the paint for half of possessions trying to time their help correctly. That's definitely one that I think would, shift the offense-defense balance to something that's a little bit more fair in the NBA.
Tatiana, is there something you would like to move to the NBA?
Yes, the whole flopping stuff. Like, I know half of the players from Team USA, well, not half of them, like one of them was like getting called so much and like he would throw himself and it wouldn't get called. So I think I would love to see that go over to the NBA. Just because like how much it works in the NBA right now, like it stops every time he throws himself on the ground and then there's like free throws coming right up. So I think the FIBA rules kind of expose that and kind of like tame it down. So I would love to see that.
Okay, let's now move to Team Serbia and more specifically Nikola Jokic. Grace, what did you think about Nikola's overall performance on both sides of the court?
So on both sides of the floor, I would say that his defense was a lot more consistent in this tournament than I had expected it to be, given how it kind of looked in the playoffs in particular. Offensively, I thought he wasn't nearly at his peak for the kind of long stretches that we're used to seeing as Nuggets fans. But obviously, he hit his stride in big moments, particularly in that big comeback versus Australia was definitely one. I thought he actually looked quite dominant offensively in the group play game versus Team USA as well. And then you had that Puerto Rico game that was like the one sort of like breeze for the team where he could just play point Jokic the whole time. And that was his big offensive contribution, as opposed to, being the hub and scoring in some other sort of spurts of moments. But yeah, I thought he was his metronomic self for the most part. Like he has probably the highest floor of any player in the NBA right now. I know what his bad games look like, and they're not really necessarily easy to recognize for people that don't watch him because the stats still kind of pop off of the page.
Tatiana, did Nikola surprise you with anything on this tournament?
He surprised me over the fact that he didn't get that triple-double the first time. But no, he's wonderful. Everything he did for Team Serbia, I feel like he does on the regular here for Denver. He just plays selfless basketball and moves the ball around and does what he usually does, which is just amaze everyone. So no, I wasn't amazed. I was very happy to watch that and see how I can see exactly what we see here in Denver, but being done for Team Serbia.
Dan, anything specific about Nikola that took your attention?
I mean, I share everybody's belief that, he's just the same old metronome. I mean, the guy's he's just unbelievable. That stretch against us, the one stretch of his play in this tournament that I'll remember the most is that stretch in the Australia game of 6 or 7 hands plays. I mean, for the Nuggets, you can always count on, in a close game down the stretch for the Nuggets, you always know that Nikola Jokic is going to get a steal, make a block, do something on the defensive end. And then in that Australia game, he had like 5 or 6 in a row. I mean, it was incredible. Joel Rush put up a supercut of it that was like literally incredible. It was just like one after the other after the other. Anyway, I could talk about Nikola Jokic all day. I'll stop this.
As we all can. I'm just going to put the tinfoil hat on my head again. I have a theory that Nikola actually used this Olympic tournament to really work on his conditioning, because he was running like hell in both directions on the court, nonstop. He was sprinting nonstop. And if you think about it, FIBA game, it is shorter than the NBA game, but it is also more condensed. There are fewer breaks during the game. So 38 minutes he played in like all of the 3 last games in the elimination rounds. It's like 50 minutes in NBA terms. So he was really running up and down. And I believe that's why his touch was a bit off on this tournament. He was just missing some shots we weren't expecting him to miss. And I don't think it has anything to do with his 3-point shot, because that one was away for a long time now. And I'm actually I talked to Adam Mares a couple of nights ago, a day after the game against Team US. And he asked me, like, do you expect Nikola to hit his threes in the final game? I'm like, of course not. Like, what are you talking about? Like he might hit some, but at this point in time, you just don't expect it. Like you would welcome it, but it's not something you can count on. Okay, let's take one short break, and then I want to talk a bit about the second part of Denver's dynamic duo. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back, and I want to hear a big takeaway now that all is said and done. We've seen all 4 games of the Canada Team Canada, and is there a big, overwhelming, overarching takeaway about Jamal Murray, or is it something we should just disregard and think to the future? Let's start with Grace again.
Yeah, something that really bothered.
1 second. Okay, before Grace's internet comes back, Tatiana, what was your big? Sorry, Grace, you cut off a bit. Tatiana,
Okay.
What is your big takeaway about Jamal's play on the Olympics, or do you even have one, considering how small his role was on Team Canada?
Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about Jamal, to be honest, because his role in Denver is completely different. And what he means like to Denver and how important he is and how many minutes he gets, it's completely different from what he was doing for Team Canada. And like his role players as well. So I'm not concerned. The one thing I would like to see more is his conditioning and stuff like that. Because we just talked about how Jokic kind of used this for him to get kind of ready for the season and more conditioning for him and everything like that. So I wish it was kind of the same for Jamal. Although I know his sometimes he was in for like close games for Team Canada, sometimes he wasn't. So that would have been good to see. And then his 3 points, I know some games he was falling a little bit short. So that's something that's a little bit concerning, but I don't think it's anything that we should be completely like throwing the towel in for with him, because I think that eventually comes in. And then we know how he loves to play under pressure. So I don't think he was really put in that situation. But I loved seeing him play versus Team Canada and kind of see him and Shai have that team and do what they did here for the Olympics this year.
Dan, we talked a bit about Jamal last week. Do you have anything to add to it now that you've seen the elimination game as well?
I mean, not really. Canada looks like they, as a team, they set their identity the year before, and Jamal wasn't with that group, so they already, they were already Shea and Lou Dort in the backcourt to start, I think, as a sort of philosophical matter. But Jamal has had the strangest NBA career of any player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, the level that guy gets to, has gotten to at the highest stages of the sport is something that, like, literally only a handful of people have played at that level ever in this game, ever. And so we're all sort of baffled as to, well, gosh, golly, Jamal, if you can do that in, game 5 of an NBA Finals, why can't you do it on a Thursday night against the Portland Trailblazers? And I don't know what the answer to that is, but I really don't care what he's doing on a Thursday night against the Portland Trailblazers. What I really want is, how is he going to do in the Western Conference Finals? Right, that's what I'm worried about.
Grace,
So, how do we know?
Dan mentioned the identity of Canada's team they took last summer. What do you feel about their identity? Is it a good one? Is it a winning formula they have, or should have they just do something with their second best player and integrate him into it?
So separate from the question of whether they should be doing more to integrate Jamal into that identity, it's that identity itself. I was really complaining about the structure or lack thereof in Canada's offense ever since the exhibition games. And I do know from watching them in the World Cup last summer, that's without Jamal, so with these guys that got to play together at least through last summer. And I know some of them have been playing with Team Canada for, summers past, that they don't have like the highest powered offense anyway, even at their best. But I felt like this year in particular, even with like taking Jamal off the floor, I don't know if it was chemistry issues, because again, these guys have gotten to play together before. And in the case of Shea and Lou Dort, they play together every night with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I just thought that they were entirely too reliant on isolation drive and kicks, especially in the game they get eliminated versus Team France. It's really difficult to live off of the shot diet that particular process is able to get you versus a really good defensive team like France was. So yeah, even separate from the Jamal's place in it question, Canada's system and whether it's a winning formula it's not even a big question mark for me. I think the resounding answer is no.
That's fair. One thing that's surprised me a bit, not by much, but Team US had all of their stars on this tournament, even the late addition of Joel Embiid to have somebody to play against Nikola Jokic. But they did not win the last 2 games with ease. I mean, you could maybe make a case of them having a bit of an easier job against Team France comparing to Team Serbia. But even Team France was in a working distance of Team US almost throughout the whole game. So are the United States losing ground against other teams, good compact teams, mostly from Europe? Or is it just that they need to take these tournaments more serious and potentially win even without all of their top level talent? Let's start with Dan this.
Well, basketball is a game of 5 players on the floor. So could Team USA be even better if they worked at it? I don't see why they wouldn't be. I mean, as much as I hate the players on it, I have to acknowledge their gifts. But obviously the rest of the world has caught up substantially since '92. I mean, just look at all the guys that are in the league, right? I mean, we don't have to squint too hard to see where Wembanyama's going to come to. So, I mean, I'm not, to answer your direct question, I'm not at all surprised that they had to work. If they were more of a team, sure, but they don't have to be, because they have. You said 9 Hall of Famers. I had to go to the roster to figure out which 3 weren't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it might be more, honestly, than 9. We'll see. See.
That's what I think. I was wondering.
Yeah, it might be 9. I think it's 9. 9 is like a surefire. Like, I wanted to give them benefit of the doubt to some other guys. But yeah, I agree. It might be more than 9.
It could be all 12 of them could make it. All of them, right?
the original Dream Team had Christian Leitner on it, so it's really possible that we are talking about the greatest team in history. Tatiana, what would you expect from Team US if they would come to the World Cup in 3 years with only like 4 All-Stars? Do you think that kind of player level would be enough for the team to compete for medals and more specifically gold?
I personally don't think so because of the amount of talent that there is in the other countries that are playing in the Olympics. With just all-stars, I mean, it depends who, and obviously like who the team consists of. But I think like I didn't see anyone beating this team ever since we saw them even pre-Olympics. They were just so dominant, and I feel like they were kind of like bigger than everyone as well, if that makes any sense. It was just so easy for them. And Steph Curry at the end, it's just insane how he is able to knock those threes in at the perfect time to just put the other team away. And I just think like the amount of talent that's in every other team that we've watched, example like Serbia, even France last night, like it's just they were so close to pulling away and tying it within a minute left, or just completely just taking the game from them. It's just insane how much talent there is, and how many like MVP calibers there are in different countries, because I turned on some of the games and there was always MVP chants and stuff like that. So I think it's a different outcome if it's a different number of like a group of Team USA that's collected and plays than this year, because this year was just like insane. It's like no one could beat them.
Grace, in the first 2 meetings between Serbia and Team US, it was 2 blowout wins, 25-30 point wins for Team US. And I was harping the fact that it's really hard to win against the same team 3 times in like 3 week span. And the main reason I was doing it was because I knew that Team Serbia just let off the rope every time around, hiding some of the stuff they're going to do in the third game. And they actually did hide a lot of zone defense, for instance. But do you think Serbia jumped on Team US with something specific from the start of the game, or was just Team US not able to push off the top effort from Team Serbia in that game?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. So on the Team USA side, I believe that game came a couple of days after Ant's birthday party, maybe a day or two. And I'm not even kidding you that everybody on the floor looked like they were hungover except for Steph Curry in that game from the beginning of it, right? And Steph was the reason that they were able to hang in the beginning. As for what Team Serbia was doing, I thought, you mentioned what they were doing in the half court defensively. That was a little bit different than what they had in the prior meetings. But offensively, I thought that the directive was to lean into shot variance a lot more than they had, not just versus the USA in prior meetings, but versus any other team in the entire tournament or in exhibition play, where they were a lot more willing to take threes both off the dribble and on kickouts. It wasn't always where the sort of reflexive move would be to repost Jokic if he's kicking out, get the ball back into him. It was more about, no, like, we're going to take those shots. We're going to get those shots up. And they were making them, right? So it was both taking and making those shots that I think was the biggest shock for Team USA, because we'd seen not just Team USA, but other teams try to hard double Jokic in the post, both in the low post and in the high post, really, to just force the ball out of his hands and force someone else to make a play. And the directive was, if you get the ball, Micic, if it's Bogey, obviously is a prolific shooter himself. If it's Alexa, you're gonna make a play to the rim, or you're going to take that 3-point shot, and you guys need to be ready. And they were ready, and guys were hitting their shots. Dobric, Marinkovic, everybody. And it wasn't the fact that they were so shot ready was a huge, massive difference from any of the prior meetings. And that's what stood out to me the most.
Yeah, and I would add to that the fact that I believe Team US had 0 transition points in the first half of this game, which is pretty amazing considering the level of athletic talent Team US has. 0 transition points. It was just an epic effort. And I just want to repeat once more, I'm so proud of the effort Team Serbia put into that game. Okay, time for our second break, and then we have to do what I promised to people. We're going to play some games and have some fun. So don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back, and Game Show Season 2, Episode 3 starts right now. Like in the previous shows, we're going to start the show with the tiebreaker game, because why not? Tiebreaker is something I really like, and why wait for the end of the show when we can decide it right away? So it is a game where you don't get any points, but just in case all 3 contestants get 1 point in one game, this tiebreaker is going to decide it. And it actually did decide game number 1. So the first game we're going to play is called, let me Google that for you. Dan, as a reigning champion, is going to start first, but I'm pretty sure this is not a great advantage for you, Dan, in this particular game, because the question I asked Google this time around was, how many Olympic athletes ... So the only answer I'm not going to give you is are there, because that's an obvious one. So I want you to try to find the 4 answers, top answers, or continuations of this question Google gave. It's not only one word, it could be several words, and I will allow paraphrasing of what Google included there. So Dan, what's your first guess? How many Olympic athletes?
So you type, so just to make sure I understand, so into the Google search bar, you type how many Olympic athletes.
Yes, and then Google fills it up. No, it fills it up.
Oh, it's the autofill, the first 4 autofills?
It's the prediction text, yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with are in Paris.
This is not among the top 4 answers. Grace, you're next alphabetically after Dan.
I'm gonna go are American.
Are American is not among the answers. Tatiana.
I'm going to say how many Olympic athletes win gold.
Good guess, but not on the list. Back to Dan. By the way, if you get answer number 1, you get 4 points. For answer number 2, you get 3 points.
Okay, I'm just going to say, have there ever been some version of in history?
No. Grace. This is a tough one. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
1 medals.
No. Tatiana.
I'm gonna say how many Olympic athletes are still participating? I'm not sure.
That's a good guess, but I asked this before the tournament started, so I maybe should have mentioned that before. Dan.
I'm going to say how many Olympic athletes are women?
Very good guess, but still not
also
in the
wrong.
top 4. Also wrong, not in the top 4. Grace.
How many Olympic athletes are French?
Now we're getting somewhere, but that's not on the list. Tatiana. But you're getting closer, I have to say. You're getting closer.
I'm going to go with how many Olympic athletes represent their country.
Yes, that is correct. That's the answer number 3. The way Google phrased it is actually an incorrect one. It asked how many Olympic athletes per country. So,
okay.
But yeah. 2 points for you. Back to Dan. We'll do 2 more rounds.
Okay, so so we're still you had the top 4 fills.
Yes, just the top 4. So
Tatiana
we still
got
need
number
1,
3.
2, and 4.
How many Olympic athletes? We've already had that in history from America. How many Olympic athletes won medals? I mean, like you've already asked all the questions that I would have about.
It's true. You're gonna see the questions are actually pretty crazy, according to Google
Olympic athletes
engine. You can say pass.
Okay, I'm gonna say how many Olympic athletes. I don't know. I'm passing. I don't have any good idea.
Okay, Grace.
Okay, I'm gonna say how many Olympic athletes in each sport.
Ooh, good reasoning, but not on the list. Tatiana.
I'm gonna say how many Olympic athletes are famous. I'm just saying this like off of like what you would type into Google. So people type in.
Yeah,
that's really good. That's really good reasoning. Not on the list, but I like the reasoning. Last round, Dan.
All right. How many Olympic athletes? Over 40.
No. Grace?
I already knew it was no.
How many Olympic athletes from China?
No, that's smart, but for some reason not on the list. Tatiana, last guess.
How many Olympic athletes? You already said does Team USA have, right?
Yeah.
Somebody already guessed that, yeah.
How many Olympic athletes are married? I have no idea.
Listen, it's as good of an answer as you're gonna see right now. So the top 4 answers were how many Olympic athletes use steroids, how many Olympic athletes are for Illinois for some reason.
Come on, I should have got the Illinois one. That's terrible.
And the last answer is
Vegan.
how many
That's a good
Olympic athletes are vegan. Yes, so Tatiana wins the tiebreaker, guessing the third ranked answer, and we'll just run straight into game 1 because we're a bit tight on time. So game 1, Tatiana will start, and game is called Basketball Olympic Medals. I'm gonna ask you which countries have won the most Olympic medals in men's basketball tournaments outside of the United States. I'm gonna give you 9 countries with the biggest tally of medals, and you're gonna try to guess countries with the most medals. More medals means more points. In this game, Tatiana, these are the countries I'm offering: Brazil, France, Italy, Lithuania, Serbia, Soviet Union, Spain, Uruguay, Yugoslavia. All of these countries have at least 2 Olympic medals in men's basketball. So, whenever you're ready, what is your first guess?
I'm gonna guess France.
France is a good guess. They are sharing position number 3, so that's 7 points from you. France actually has 4 medals now. Let's go to Grace now.
I'm going to go with Italy.
Italy is tied for the last with 2. So, yeah, two medals. One of them, interestingly enough, in 1980 in Moscow when they won a silver medal against Team Yugoslavia in that final game. I don't remember when was their second Olympic medal. Back to Dan now.
I'm going to go Soviet Union. It hasn't been around for a while, but they medaled a lot.
It is true. Soviet Union has not been around since 1988, so they've missed last like what 9 tournaments or whatever. But yeah, they're number one with 9 medals. Then that's a really good guess. 9 points for you. 9 medals in, I believe, something like 11 tournaments, maybe fewer than that, honestly. Like Soviets have been medaling nonstop while they were around. Back to Tatiana.
I'm gonna choose Brazil. I feel like Brazil is good.
Brazil has 5 Olympic medals, so that will tie you for number 5 on this list, and 5 points for Tatiana. 5 Olympic medals, pretty impressive by Brazil. Back to Grace.
I am stuck between 2 here. I'm gonna go with.
Oh, sorry, Brazil has 3 Olympic medals, not 5. My mistake. Sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Spain.
Spain is tied for number 3. They have 4 Olympic medals, 7 points for you. And now we are back to Dan.
So let's see. How many are left? There's only 3 left.
Yeah. You have Uruguay, Lithuania, Serbia, and
Serbia.
Yugoslavia.
There's 4 left.
Yeah. So just in case you were all wondering, because we have both Serbia and Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is up until 1988, and Serbia is from 1996 on. So a bit more tournaments on the Yugoslavian part and a bit less on Serbia, just in case you've been wondering. Because it's a political question. I don't expect all of you to know up front.
Italy's gone. What? Italy's gone, right? Brazil's gone.
Yeah, so Uruguay, Lithuania, Serbia, and Yugoslavia.
So it's Lithuania. I'm going to take a flyer on Lithuania. They have a proud tradition of basketball.
Lithuania Lithuania is tied for 5th with 3 medals, so that will be 5 points for Dan. Back to Tatiana. So you have Yugoslavia, Serbia, and Uruguay.
I'm gonna go with Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia is number 2 with 5 medals, so that will be
That's impressive.
8 points for Tatiana. Grace, Serbia or Uruguay?
I'm gonna go with Serbia.
Serbia is tied for 5 with 3 medals, including the one from yesterday. So that's 5 points for Grace. And then you are forced to pick Uruguay here for 2 points. And let me see, Dan has 9, 14, 16 points. Tatiana has 15, 20 points. And Grace has 14. So Tatiana wins game number 1. Congrats.
This is a fun game. I like this game.
You see?
They're all fun.
The most fun are the one you win. I get that part. So let's take one short break, and then we have 2 more games to play to determine who will be the winner of this week's show. Don't go anywhere. I always forget to show the table at the end. So you see Soviet Union with 9 medals, Yugoslavia with 5. So if you combine Yugoslavia and Serbia, you would get 8 medals. But honestly, then you could combine Soviet Union and Lithuania. Even though Lithuania is a really small part of Soviet Union, it's one of the most important parts. And there were always representatives from Lithuania on the Soviets. So they could have a say in that as well. On the other side, United States, 20 medals. I believe that's probably the 20 Olympic tournaments that had basketball in it. Okay, game number 2 is called Highest Box Plus Minus on the Nuggets in the Jokic Era. So I will explain this a bit, and Tatiana will start again. I will give you the 9 guys outside of Nikola Jokic, because he would be a really obvious pick, that had not only the best box plus minus among players that have played in at least 100 regular season games, but also the only 9 guys that didn't have a negative box plus minus since 2015 on the Nuggets. So I'm only counting their Nuggets careers from 2015 on. And the 9 guys, and then I will answer your question before we start. The 9 guys are Will Barton, Kenneth Farid, Danilo Gallinari, Aaron Gordon, Paul Millsap, Monty Morris, Jamal Murray, Mason Plumlee, and Michael Porter Jr. So, to explain what box plus minus is, it is a catch-all metric that takes all the numbers from the box score, jams them up, and determines how positive a player is on offense and or defense. Combine those numbers, and then it will give you a number that will show you sort of in percentage how much better player is than the average player of that season. So if a player has a box plus minus of 0, and all of these guys have at least 0, that means he is a decent starter or a solid 6th man. If he has a +2, he's a good starter. +4, all-star consideration. +6, an all-NBA season. +8, MVP season, something like peak Dirk or peak Shaq. And +10 is an all-time season, peak Jordan or peak LeBron or peak Nikola Jokic, to be honest. So, do we have any questions before we begin?
So is this career or is this season?
This is career. So this is for all of their games on the Nuggets, but it has to start from the 2015 season when Nikola Jokic started playing on the Nuggets. And some of these guys have played for a very short time, like Danilo Gallinari, only 2 seasons together with
These
Nikola
are
Jokic.
the only 9 guys that are positive? The
Only 9? No. It's only 9 guys that are 0 or better.
Oh, I see.
Because a couple of guys here are 0s.
I mean, there's not even 9 that are in the positive?
Yeah, there are.
Oh my God! Like everybody
7
talks about Tim Connolly, and this is what he gave us.
It's
Holy
7
shit.
guys. It's 7 guys plus Nikola Jokic. To be honest, some of the guys have been really screwed with this metric. Guys like Gary Harris, who has like historically bad box plus minus. Some other guys, like some guys that are actually solid when you watch them, but then they have like a -4 box plus minus, which sounds horrible. So with all that in mind, if we are ready, Tatiana, you can make your first pick out of these 9 guys who you think had the highest box plus minus during their Nuggets tenure in the Jokic era.
I'm going to start with Michael.
Oh, sorry.
Porter
And
Jr.
we have a question here from Michael Talley. Is box plus minus cumulative? It is a per minute stat, but it does add up. It doesn't help you. It doesn't get bigger with longer time period. It just averages out per minute. So it's not cumulative. It's actually per minute. So sorry, Tatiana. You were saying.
Yeah, I want to start with Michael Porter Jr. I think because of his shooting.
Yes, it's an excellent guess. Michael Porter Jr. is tied for 3rd. So you get 7 points, and his box plus minus is 0.9. Number 3 on this list.
Tied for 3rd. Okay.
Now we'll go to Dan.
I mean, I gotta go Jamal.
Yes, Jamal is also tied for 3rd, 0.9.
I mean, this is. I mean, seriously, this is the. I mean, I'm sorry. Now I'm just getting mad. I mean, like I show up as Nikola Jokic's lawyer, man. I'm doing a terrible job. He needs more help than he got.
It is one stat that is specifically tailored to make Nikola Jokic great.
But let me just say this, okay? What ennobles box plus minus as a stat, what makes it legit, is that when you look at the people who excel at box plus minus, they're the best players.
It's true. Yeah, I'm just kidding partially here, but yeah, it's you will not get huge numbers here. So, Grace. Time for
I'm
your
gonna
guess.
go with Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon is number 6 on this list.
Oh my God.
Even though his box plus minus is just slightly lower than the two guys you already guessed, his box plus minus is 0.8 since he came to the Nuggets. We're going back to Tatiana.
I'm gonna guess Danilo because of the amount of time that he played.
Danilo Gallinari is number 1 on the list.
Yes.
Box plus minus of 2. Sharp 2 for
Dude,
Danilo
that's a
Gallinari.
big one.
Number 1 on this list.
And he would. Oh, I'm really getting mad. Okay.
Dan. By the way, he's way higher than anybody else on this list.
I don't know. I'm just gonna. Tatiana's already run away with this game, so I'm just gonna take a flyer on Will Barton and hope he's number 2.
Will Barton is tied for last place.
Okay.
His box plus minus
I
is
just thought
0.
this is gonna surprise me, so I'm gonna go with Will Barton.
Yes, his box plus minus in the Nuggets is 0, which is a solid starter. As I said, it's not a bad sign. Solid starter or a good 6th man. We're going back to Grace.
Me. Okay. I'm gonna go with Plumlee here.
Yes, Plumlee is number 2 on the list. 8
Yeah.
points for you. His box plus minus is a whooping 1.3. By the way,
Nice.
He was really good with
centers are kind of privileged on this, especially centers that can pass the ball. They're privileged because they are better than, let's say, what is expected from a center. Center is not expected to pass the ball well. This is why Nikola Jokic is so high in box plus minus, and also centers tend to have high efficiency, and that also helps with box plus minus. We are going back to Tatiana. You have 3 guys left. Do you know which they are, or do you want me to help?
I think it's between Paul, Kenneth, and Monte.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Monte.
Monte Morris is 8 on this list. His 3 points for you. His box plus minus is 0.3. Back to Dan.
All right, I'll go Millsap.
Millsap is tied for number 3. Dan,
He was at least an all-star during his career, if not.
yeah, 0.9 on the Nuggets. So, Grace, you are forced to pick Kenneth Farid, who is another guy with 0 box plus minus.
He's another guy. That's what he is.
He is as the metrics say, he was a solid starter. And by the way, I really liked the connection between Nikola Jokic and Kenneth Farid, because it was really Kenneth Farid was dunking the ball nonstop. Problem was the defensive part was pretty bad, so they needed to move away from Kenneth. By the way, Kenneth Farid was a Team USA member back in, I believe, 2014 on the World Cup. And I believe that's the last World Cup Team USA won on. So kudos to Kenneth Farid, a gold medalist in the World Cup. Okay, let's, we should count the numbers, but I can see that Tatiana won this game as well with 19 points for Tatiana. So that's point number 2 for her. Before we go to the last game of the show, which is called Can I? Let me show you like the list before we go to the last game, so you can see all the big numbers of our top players in the Jokic era compared to Nikola Jokic's 9.9 average box plus minus. Okay, last game is called Can I Have Your Full Name, Sir / Madam? So what this game is about, I made up some 3-part full names that consist of first name of first person, last name of second person, and then the middle name is a mashup between the last name of the first person and the first name of the second person. So if I would ask you who is the first guy that Nikola Jokic got paid on the Nuggets, and the second guy is the most handsome non-Miroslav on the DNVR Nuggets crew, your answer will be Gary Harrison Wind. So I hope this is clear, so we can jump right into the first combination for Tatiana, who is the winner of the last game. So Tatiana, first clue. The first person is an NBA player born in 1995. The second person's middle name is Wayne. That helps, right?
Okay, so 1995.
Don't be afraid to say pass, because the first clue is usually comically hard to guess.
Okay, I'm gonna pass.
Grace, any
traditional.
idea? Grace, any ideas?
I'm gonna go ahead and pass as well.
Okay,
Make
Dan?
it 3 passes.
3 passes. Okay, Tatiana, we are going to the second clue. Slightly easier. The first person won the gold medal at the 2013 FIBA Under-19 World Cup and was the MVP of the McDonald's All-American game that same year, so 2013. The second person appeared in Django Unchained, Knives Out, and Machete. So we are talking about somebody who appears in movies.
I have no idea. I'm gonna pass this one too.
Grace?
I'm trying to think of who was in all 3 of those movies. I haven't seen Machete, but
Great movie, by the way. You should see it.
okay, I'll add it to the list. Man, I think I have to
Machete,
pass.
And second part, Machete Kills, and then announced third part called Machete Kills Again in Space.
Again, yeah.
That one never got made.
I heard about that one.
Dan, any ideas?
I too have not seen Machete, although with Miroslav's endorsement, I'm going to check it out. But I'm going to pass.
Okay, Tatiana, third and last clue in this first combination. The first person watched Nikola Jokic play basketball live in Prague and lifted a horse racing trophy in Sombor, Serbia. The second person starred in the TV shows Miami Vice and Nash Bridges.
Okay, so I know who the first person is for sure. I'm just having such a hard time with the second person. Can I say like the first person, or does it have to be combined?
You can do it, but you will get no points and you will help somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say the first person is Aaron Gordon.
That is correct.
Okay.
Do you want to try to combine that? Or do you want to pass?
I want to pass because I have actually no idea for the second person.
Grace?
Yeah, no, it's definitely Aaron Gordon. All I've got is Aaron Ramsey, and I know he's not in Knives Out. So.
I know the middle name of Wayne was throwing me off.
Just think about Gordon. Forget the Aaron part. Just concentrate on Gordon, if it can help you.
Gordon Wayne. My cousin was watching the game yesterday, and he looked at Steve Kerr and says he looks like Gordon Ramsay. So that's like all I have in my head right now.
So the first name of second person does not have to be Gordon. It just has to melt with Gordon in some way. So you can join 2 names and get the first name of the second person, if that helps.
I have to pass.
Dan?
Okay, it's got to be Aaron Gordon Johnson.
Aaron Gordon Johnson is correct.
Wow.
And I really love your pronunciation, the way you emphasize the D in Gordon Johnson. So yes, that's point number 1 in this game for Dan. And we will go straight to him for the. Oh no, we should actually go to Grace now
Yes,
for the
it's Grace's
second
turn.
for
Oh,
the
no.
second
Okay.
for the second combination. Grace, are you ready?
Let's go.
The first person is a 52-year-old basketball coach. The second person is not a person, but a movie title. Oh, this is nasty.
Not a person, but a movie title.
Yes.
I don't want to give. I already know the first name, but I don't want to give away help for the
Okay.
second part. So I'm going to
Okay.
pass.
Dan,
Grace knows the 52-year-old basketball coach. I'm impressed.
there's not that many. Probably 1,000.
I'm impressed. Okay, I'm gonna say Eric Spoelstra.
Interesting, but not correct. Tatiana?
I'm gonna pass. I'm trying to think, but
Okay.
yeah, not sure.
Second clue. The first person is the son of a coach, is on a Denver Nuggets coaching staff. That helps a bit. The second person is not a person, but the title of a movie directed by Miloš Forman in 1975.
Oh gosh.
Will
Oh
Will
my gosh.
Will don't you guess it in the chat? I know you know it.
Man, I need to brush up on my old movie references. I'm gonna pass again.
Dan, any ideas?
Is it David Adel's son flew over the cuckoo's nest?
It isn't. Tatiana?
That was a good guess.
It was. Tatiana, any ideas?
I have no idea.
Okay, Grace. It seems
right.
like you have an epiphany, but I'm gonna give
think I
I'm
know.
gonna give
Yeah,
you
go
a
ahead.
third clue just for you to make sure you got it. The first person grew his hair back during the pandemic. The second person is not a person, but a title of a movie that yielded an Oscar for Jack Nicholson for playing a criminal who pleaded insanity and got admitted to a mental institution.
Is it Michael Mel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
That is correct. Michael Malone flew over the cuckoo's nest. Look how nice he looks on this bench next to Jack Nicholson and Chief. Yeah, that might be the craziest combination I've made so far. Well done, Grace.
I can't believe that Michael Malone's only 52, man.
I can't
Yeah.
believe you thought
This
David
team has
Adelman is
aged
50.
him. He's gonna. I'll tell you, when he finally, quits, he's gonna lose a bunch of that age. He's gonna be much younger.
And
NBA
funny.
coach, man, they earn their money, don't they?
They
Yeah.
do. They do. And the funny part about this question is there are 3 sons of former coaches on Denver Nuggets staff. So it was
Yeah.
it was you had somebody to pick from. Okay, Dan, the third combination is for you. The first person is a former NBA player that played for the Utah Jazz and Atlanta Hawks. The second person is a movie character.
I'll pass.
Tatiana?
I'm gonna pass too.
Grace?
Pass.
Okay, then second clue. This one might help. The first person is a 4-time All-Star born in 1985. The second person is a boxer. So a movie character that is a boxer. And the first person played for Utah Jazz and Atlanta Hawks and was a 4-time All-Star born in 1985.
Paul Millsap, Apollo Creed.
That is correct. Excellent
Wow.
guess. Excellent guess. Paul Millsap, Apollo Creed is correct. Dan. Excellent. I removed Dan instead of.
It took me a minute. I mean, I knew it was Paul. I thought it was Paul Millsap, but I was thinking like spa.
So yeah, the winner of third game is Dan, and at the end, Tatiana is a winner of this week's show with 2 points in 3 games. Congrats to Tatiana.
She didn't even need the tiebreaker, although she had it anyway.
Yeah.
She had a tiebreaker too. That's correct. That's right. That is right. That is
The game,
correct.
the name game is what is so hard.
Yeah, it really needed a bit of luck because you've seen the answers Google is, or it's not even the answer, it's the questions the Google is trying to ask, and they're pretty crazy.
That Illinois one was like, what?
I saw that and I said, no, this gotta go to the show. Like they're asking how many athletes are there from Illinois, which is pretty crazy. Because I was typing that from Serbia, I wasn't typing that from Chicago, so. That's the crazy part, but it is what it is. So, Tatiana, as a winner of this show, do you think you will be able to come back next week and defend your throne?
I kind of have to, yes.
It is in the contract. So yeah, that's true. That is true. So, Grace, when can we expect the next episode of What's in the Game podcast?
So Will and I have an episode coming out today. Reviewing everything after we watch the gold medal games. So definitely check that one out.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Dan, do you want something to plug before we go?
Not right now. Hopefully there'll be another song this year, but we'll have to wait for the identity of the team to develop a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, we could not get the full version of your second song you prepared for the 2024.
Okay.
Championship, but
the next one's going to be shorter, Miro.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get it because the Nuggets are champions.
Oh, you'll have first crack at it for sure.
Okay, excellent. So, all right, that's all I've prepared for you, my dear listener. And please, with cherry on top, please take the word prepared very loosely. Be well, be safe, be kind to everybody. Call your mom. And until next week, Justin Holiday.